Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Helen Gorham. I'm Research Manager at the Leadership Foundation. I hope you're all enjoying the event so far. I'm very pleased to be introducing Professor Malcolm Gillies. He's the Vice-Chancellor of London Metropolitan University, and for his talk entitled Alternative Leaders, How Alternative, please welcome Malcolm to the stage.
I'd like to begin by saying congratulations to you and to Mark for leading this wonderful organisation for the last 10 years. And I've enjoyed for the last 7 years as a Vice-Chancellor in London being a part of so many of the Leadership Foundation programmes. I want to follow on what Muriel's been talking about, this concept of pride, and I want to take us from the view of alternative through equal opportunity to what I'd like to think is real diversity. In doing this, I want to put the proposition that we need to have the leaders who are the best or the most appropriate for the job, whatever their sexual orientation, not regardless of their sexual orientation. That diminishes the orientation. We need to celebrate that diversity and the way different people look on issues in different ways, not negate it. Muriel just talked about Stonewall. I was at their dinner for the 25th anniversary last Thursday. And the conclusion there was, now in this wonderful year of the marriage bracket, same-sex couples, close bracket act, that has been a wonderful success, but it is only a beginning. There have not yet been the substantial changes that we need in society. I'd like to look at that issue of how you change, looking at the fact that nearly 100 countries in the world have a policy of no tolerance towards gays and lesbians, but particularly gay males. And you can name them, and you will have heard them on the news in the last 24 hours, places like Nigeria, or Uganda, or Iran, or in a different way, Russia. If we look at the area where there could be some visibility, we would say that it's a toleration area. For instance, the don't ask, don't tell policy you have in the United States military, which says keep your head down and we will tolerate you. You then have the area that says we will accept you. In other words, conform to the norm, accept you into our values. And that's fine, and you can have your life and do what you want so long as you act like one of us. And then with true diversity, it actually means in every way, on every day, no quotas, no sense of tokenism. And that's very difficult. We see how difficult diversity work is through the small number of women who still lead our universities, with the almost total lack of absence of BME, and we don't even know whether we're under or overrepresented in the field of sexual orientation because many people are still rather coy about that. As someone who hasn't been coy about that for the last 30 or 40 years, who has lived my entire life as an out male, it's been a fascinating trajectory from being a yearly reappointed tutor in music to being a Vice-Chancellor for life, or whatever that actually means in London Met. Now, can I say that we need to recognise that while I and my partner have had the same partner for the entire 33 years, and we're looking forward to being husband and husband in a few months' time, what I learned from that is our decision in 1980 that we would be out and honest was definitely the right thing to do. It was difficult. It stopped us in our careers occasionally or slowed them down. It created suspicions. But it was right because it was being honest with our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters, some of whom were doing the hard yards on the equal opportunity marching. And it was also honest with those who brought us into the world, namely our parents. So without that base, I think it would be very hard for me to be even speaking today. Let me just share with you a few things that make me laugh and sometimes make me cry about what I've learnt about equal opportunity, about gay and lesbian rights, and about this world of alternatives. Firstly, having come to this country in early 2007 to a number of headlines that said, is this Britain's first gay VC? I had to come, don't be ridiculous. I've seen all those movies about your public schools. but actually, I might have been the first one, no one really can tell you, who actually lived in an open gay relationship in a Vice-Chancellor's residence and insisted that there was no understanding of a heterosexual presumption at any time. This created quite a problem because one journalist decided that this would make some good headlines, so as it were to out me, a tired thing to do at my late stage in life. But on the other hand, my former Vice-Chancellor in the institution issued a statement saying that this has got nothing to do with any of us. But it had. He had a wife. She had a role in the university. In fact, the Vice-Chancellor's wife was still the chair of the University Women's Association. My partner found it a little hard to do. The purpose of that was to let us see that honesty was the best policy. Let me go to another moment in my life. Where I was brought up in semi-rural Australia, there were three professions you could go into as a gay. You could do hairdressing, you could join the Navy, or you could go into the arts. I thought the Navy sounded quite exciting, but nonetheless, I went for the arts. I became a professor of music. I am a musician, and that's been a great life. Many of the gay people I've known have not, in fact, gone into the career they would have done best. It was hard to be a gay engineer, very hard to be a gay mining engineer in the part of the country in which I was brought up. So to give in our equal opportunity now the opportunity for people to have the career they want and live the lifestyle they want, that is something that in fact many still do not manage to achieve. I have to say how lucky I am for the tolerance of my musical colleagues. Let me move to an issue of AIDS, because I lived through that AIDS era and I remember some devastating years when I lost many close friends. A bit like the First World War, they would tend to go in clumps and for certain medical reasons. What I saw in AIDS, which is hugely great leadership modelling, was a Vice-Chancellor, a Federal Minister of Health and a medical director coming together to make sure that Australia had the best and most honest system of AIDS. Unlike the Thatcherite, unlike the Reagan-esque don't ask, don't tell kind of world, or thinking that these covert things might go away with the second-rate class of people, in Australia there was a brilliant and early intervention. 17 years later, that Federal Minister of Health came out himself as being gay. And we were all very grateful for the role that he'd taken through those very dark years in the 1980s. Can I just fast you forward a little bit to public humiliation? Because what I've seen repeatedly in my life is an evangelical zeal of some who know what sin is. And sometimes I have been that. And if you know that because of your religion or because of your ideology, you will attack and attack and attack. And so I have seen through my life many attacks coming from students who want better grades, staff who don't like what you want to do, the press trying to find a reason why you take a particular attitude towards leadership. And it stinks. When I was called a cocksucker in the comments of the Times Higher Education just 2 years ago, I'm sorry I did see red. Sorry, John. But I think, John, you did the right thing when you started what eventually closed those comments, except for people who were prepared to stand up to them. To have that comment sitting for 10 hours, unmoderated, gave me a concern. Not that people would think, oh, Malcolm Gillies is gay. If they didn't know that, they must be pretty dense. But nonetheless, I still, despite all of that abuse, took exception to the term. Let me touch upon a final point, the institutional interest. When my partner and I decided to get into a civil partnership, in 2008, a number of the members of my university board at that time took offence to this. One of them said, and it was quite according to the government's textbook, he said, I don't think that's in the institutional interest. Now, I assured him that actually I hadn't overlooked the institutional interest, but actually I wasn't actually getting into a partnership with my partner for the institutional interest. There were some other things there I was more interested in. But it was a good point. This isn't a world in which you can have that degree of tolerance and get away with it without damage. Millions of pounds of philanthropy will not come to your university because you will not be a fit and proper person to be its recipient. Strategic partnerships will fail because you fail their due diligence test. And it isn't as if they're not doing due on it. So just leave you with that thought. There are prices to tolerance and acceptance. Is your institution prepared to pay the price, or is it making more convenient appointments because of the danger of what might happen? A last thought. Alternative, yes, we need to embrace it. It all needs to become normal over the years. It won't be at the same pace in different countries, and it will be for different reasons. I'd like to give my final advice by quoting 8 lines of Andrew Marvell's To His Coy Mistress, not the bits you hear, or the bits that are necessarily in the A-level textbook, but the last 6 lines that read, "Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife through the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run." Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.